have a message coming in from the aliens.
Allow me to translate that for you. It says, sit back and have some eggnog because you're caught in the SF Vortex for our special year-in review show. We'll look at the hits and what some thought of as misses in the world of sci-fi television.
We don't have time for this.
Oh, but you'll want to make time when you see who's in the war room to battle out the best and the worst of the year. And we'll reveal the results of our viewer poll to see what shows you thought were a cut above the rest. And after all that, if you're still thinking about missing this one, don't. Because we just unveiled what happened to the last guy who tried to change the channel. Welcome to SF Vortex's first ever year-end preview show. Don't laugh at the hat, I got an extra $4 to wear it. And how about these presents that Santa left around, huh? It's for people who stay with us for the whole show. All right, now anyway, how'd you like that music too? Do we know how to get in the spirit around here or what? All right, now anyway, let's get on with the show because with the holidays comes the end of another year. And 1996 was without a doubt a great year for sci-fi television as Babylon 5 got darker and more compelling by focusing on the Shadow War. Deep Space Nine took great steps towards shaking its image as a galactic Motel 6, and Voyager's crew proved their metal Land of the Lost style by surviving abandonment on a planet with screaming dinosaurs. And the X-Files, well, let's just say they provided us with a whole new list of things to never discuss at the dinner table. But the most welcome trend of 1996 was the Tribble-like escalation in the number of new SF shows. You know, shows like Millennium, Dark Skies, The Burning Zone. I mean, the list goes on and on. So why don't we take a look at what we thought were the best new SF shows of 1996. All right, sci-fi seems poised to take over the world of television, don't you think, folks? And what better place to discuss the 1996 invasion than in our very own war room? And joining us today, it's our version of men behaving badly. We have Michael Logan, the TV Guide reporter whose beats range from soaps to Star Trek. And Robert Burnett is here. He's a freelance sci-fi critic and film editor. And also, you know him as Mark Altman, the editor of Sci-Fi Universe magazine. I know him as the Socrates of sci-fi. All right, guys, let's get right to it. Let's get started. Which was the best new show of 1996? Michael, what do you think?
Well, if you'd asked me the first week of Millennium, I would have said Millennium.
And I would have agreed with you.
I pooped out like the rest of America, and I don't want to start off on a negative note here, but I don't like any of these new shows. I think Third Rock from the Sun, actually.
Okay, well, there you go.
It's a stretch in the concept of sci-fi, perhaps, but yes.
Mark Altman, what do you say?
That's why Michael only writes for TV Guide, not Sci-Fi Universe. I mean, you know, I'll tell you. Baywatch Nights. No.
Terrific.
It's terrific. No, I'll tell you. I don't really have a favorite this season. I think it's been a pretty bad year in general for new science fiction. Intriguing concepts, Dark Skies, Millennium, but they haven't paid off for me. They haven't sustained the initial hype.
Robert Burnett, what do you say?
You got an X-Files ripoff and some dark fantasy show. Where is the new sci-fi? The best sci-fi show?
Right.
4th season of Babylon 5. It's new, it's good,
That's
it's my
cheating.
favorite.
That's a very good point.
It's the original Star Trek is still in reruns. The best show in 1990.
No, it's, hey, come on, new episode.
I vote for Twilight Zone.
You're right. Exactly.
I like that Caligula Emperor Cartagia.
Stick to the program, Burnett. I said best new sci-fi
There is
show.
no best new sci-fi show. No, there is not one.
Michael, you brought up a very good point about Millennium. I mean, like everybody else in the country, I watched the opening of the episode. I mean, my God, it was hyped during baseball season. Every 8 seconds you'd see a commercial.
Steve's Millennium
Well, sure,
was
how about those
sci-fi concepts.
But
Big
what about
sci-fi
it? Why
show
did
that
why
morning.
did they lose so much of their
Well, the
audience?
problem with that show and so many of these others is the gimmick, for lack of a better word, of the show is extremely limited. And when you tune in episode 2 of Millennium, you realize you're basically seeing episode 1, same thing with episode 3, 4, on and on.
And so on.
And Lance Henriksen also, I think, really
well
fools you.
repeats. That's why when they repeated Millennium, it went down the crapper in terms of ratings.
Went down the crapper, ladies and gentlemen.
Not the expression I would have used.
Well, let's talk about like a show like Burning Zone. Okay, that's another one that I thought was going to be terrific, for lack of a better word.
You know what? I
what
like the
happened
pilot.
there?
Like
So
the
do I.
pilot.
That's
I
the
thought
point
it
I'm
was
trying to
really
make.
cool.
You know what do we need to do to save Burning Zone?
Write a
Should
lot of
we say
letters.
Burning Zone? But that's what I mean. You take that concept. How can you possibly sustain a series based on finding bizarre viruses
Every
over
week. Every week.
the course of one season, let alone what
And it
everybody
wasn't
should
enough
hope
for
for
Burning Zone.
you
Now
know,
they did
5
it on
years.
Voyager. They had these CGI virus. Oh, Star Trek. Well, I got him.
So you did. You just brought up Star
How
Trek.
to get it in there. But they did this virus thing. And I think that's a very disturbing real-life problem we'll be facing.
I'll tell you what's really disturbing, the fact we have to go to a break right
More
now.
episodes of Burning Zone?
When the Socrates of sci-fi is talking, we have to go to a break. Don't go away, folks. Later on, we're going to pick the #1 SF show of 1996. But coming up next, we'll talk about the best in fantasy television. It's all happening when SF Vortex returns. Oh, it's hard for me to watch. It stirs up those memories when I ask for a raise here in the Vortex. Robert Burnett, what about it? Best fantasy television program of 1996 was?
Red Shoe Diaries. Absolutely. But no, seriously, Highlander the series, I think, those immortals hacking away at each other with those swords, I buy it. It looks like they're really fighting. I dig that show.
You know, in Hercules and Xena, there's more silicon than there was in that Star Trek episode with the rock creature. I mean, but that's not why you watch the show. You watch the show because it has this kind of redolent of the films we liked as children, the Ray Harryhausen. In the CGI has allowed them to tell these kind of fantasy stories. It's not Excalibur, it's not Conan, but it's fun, it's diverting, it's fluffy, but it's entertaining.
But it's very comforting entertainment. It's like the equivalent of TV comfort food to watch these shows, especially if you're a Harryhausen fan. And these are not state-of-the-art effects that we're seeing every week here, or state-of-the-art acting. Right. And those accents.
And there aren't any accents. Where are the accents?
The accents are from Malibu Beach.
Kevin Sorbo. It's like, dude,
it's Baywatch accent.
Hold on. Before we can go on to the next subject, you guys are ducking the question. Best fantasy show of 96 was the question, Mr. Logan.
Of action.
Of fantasy.
Highlander, I would say.
I would say Highlander because at least Highlander attempts to be more. But, I don't think you can judge Hercules and Xena on the same level because they're just trying to be fun shows. To me, they're almost the same show. And then Sinbad, is... let's not even talk about it.
But Sinbad has the just bodacious baby in that show.
Okay, well, anyway, our viewers in our War Room poll, they agreed with you, gentlemen. Highlander was picked as the #1.
Better than all the movies.
As the #1 show. And in fact, we have a letter from Carl Riley. He emailed us to say, I originally picked Hercules, but Xena's character is a little better defined. For me, 1996 was a good year for sci-fi and fantasy.
They're doing a Hercules and Xena cartoon, and it's going to be actually have singing. Xena's going to sing in it. That's not a joke. They're really doing it.
Well, that's going to come in funny.
Okay.
I didn't think so either.
Don't cry for me,
serious.
Athens, or
Let
something.
me ask you a question. What about the plethora of all these new fantasy shows? Does this hurt? Nice word, plethora.
I like
very
that.
impressive. Does it hurt the stories, the writing each week? I mean, there's so many now. I mean,
And there's going to be more. They're coming out with Conan next season. So I think Hercules and Xena do it better than anybody else. They're the Star Trek of fantasy shows. We don't really need the imitation.
I think there's a freedom with the fantasy format that a lot of the the sci-fi shows like Star Trek, for example, the two
It's
current series,
unpretentious.
are
It's
having
unpretentious.
problems with where they can go or where they've already been and duplicating. And this is kind of like an open field. It's really I'm seeing a lot more fresh stories and just fun hours of TV from the fantasy
folklore
shows.
all right,
Yeah.
we got to go. We got to break away for a second because we still need to engage in a ceremonial combat to determine which SF show was the best in 96. It'll happen right here in the War Room when SF Vortex continues. I want to behead somebody. All right, welcome back to SF Vortex. We are still in the War Room with Robert Burnett, Michael Logan, and the Socrates of Sci-Fi. He is Mark Altman. Now, according to my mom, SFVortex is the greatest show around, guys. But unfortunately, Mom wasn't on the voting board when we came up with our 5 final choices for the best sci-fi show of '96. Let's all take a look. There you have it, guys. The 5 nominees. Best show of '96. Michael Logan, who gets your vote?
X-Files, even on the weeks where it stinks, and that does happen, sometimes with alarming regularity, it's still better than anything else.
Okay, there you go. X-Files for Michael Logan. How about for the Socrates of sci-fi, Mr. Altman?
Space 1999. No, actually, first of all, I'm going to tell you one thing. Instead of Voyager, Space Above and Beyond should have been one of the 5. Voyager does not deserve to be in the best of anything, let alone the best science fiction of the year. But I would have to say Deep Space Nine, particularly on the strength of episodes like Troubles and Tribulations, The Quickening, Apocalypse Rising. Good year, great year for the show, although Babylon 5 is a close second for me.
Okay. Robert Burnett?
I feel the same way about Voyager, and as much as I cherish Deep Space Nine, I've got to go with Babylon 5. It's a hard sci-fi show. It's got great sci-fi concepts, and they're really playing their mythology out well. Okay. I mean, even though I'm not a Straczynski fan after what he did to the new Twilight Zone, I got to go with Babylon 5.
Okay, that's enough positive stuff for one.
How about, they still hate me at Deep Space Nine. It doesn't matter.
How about, name me a show, Robert Burnett, start us off. One show that you expected to be a hit, that you were expecting to be great, and it wound up a big, giant disappointment.
The new season of Bold and the Beautiful.
Well, that's a whole other thing.
I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you.
No, Dark Skies.
Really?
I think Dark Skies tanked. Kennedy killed by aliens? No.
Baywatch Nights really disappointed me.
Yeah, I didn't get
I really had high expectations for
Baywatch
David
Nights.
Hasselhoff chasing ghosts and goblins and God knows what.
Mark Altman, the only guy who watches Baywatch for the acting. Didn't work for you?
It's the Space Precinct of 1996. No,
Hey,
actually,
Space Precinct's a great show.
I'll tell
Jerry
you,
Anderson.
Millennium was a big disappointment for me. You know, I just don't think it's lived up to the potential. I think that, that is probably a big disappointment for me, more so than any other show. Dark Skies, I agree, has not lived up to its potential. And finally, Sliders has self-destructed this season. It's gone from really intriguing satire to high concept, kiddie kind of stuff.
All right.
Really bad.
Now, it's time to announce the 1996, the SFVortex War Room show of 1996. Can I get a drum roll something in here? Okay, the biggest show of the year according to our viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, God, have I built this up enough? Babylon 5. How about a little golf clap?
Yeah, there you go.
Very nice. All right. Can we, no confetti, no nothing? What's
Congratulations, Babylon 5.
It's certainly not enough.
May I note that Babylon 5 also won the Sci-Fi Universe Reader's Choice Award, so it's a good year for Babylon 5.
I thought the X-Files won that award. Oh, no, maybe not.
Okay, now, let's pretend I'm Santa. I know it's a stretch, but just kind of, pretend that I'm Santa Claus without the sitting on my lap part, Robert. Don't get excited. Okay, now, you've been a good boy this year with the exception of...
No, he hasn't.
Don't talk about the Gentleman's Club
If
thing.
you could have one present, okay, to fix sci-fi, a present to make sci-fi better, what would it be for 97?
I want Terry Farrell in the classic red.
That's a whole other war room.
You know what? Get rid of Voyager. Cancel it and start a new anthology Trek show.
Well, you know what? I was going to say cancel Voyager, but since you said it, my wish for the new year is a UPN miniseries with the original cast based on The Ashes of Eden. Bring back Kirk, Spock, and McCoy one more time.
Wow. Michael Logan?
I want to see all of these networks stop trying to clone each other's shows, stop trying to put on shows that have a concept that lasts no longer than 2.5 episodes to sustain our interest, and these one-note performances. I looked at Lance Hendrickson's first week of Millennium. I thought, God, this guy's great.
That's what
the
I
next
thought,
week
too.
I figure out this is the Daniel Benzali performance of the year. You know,
Hey, don't knock Daniel Benzali.
going nowhere.
Another edition of the War Room. I want to thank.
Yeah, right.
I want to thank Robert Burnett, Michael Logan, and Mr. What's your name again?
Socrates of science fiction. I'll pay you later.
All right, we'll see you guys back in a couple of weeks when we do our big 96 movie and review show. All right, you folks at home, don't go anywhere because we'll be right back with our pick for the best episode of 96 as the Vortex continues. All right, welcome back to SFVortex. Now, folks, the moment you've all been waiting for, the best SF episode of 1996. The envelope, please. Who's the idiot with the envelope? Oh, wait a minute. Oops. The winner is, ladies and gentlemen, Hold on. Deep Space Nine's Trials and Tribulations. How about that? How about that? Could we at least get maybe some confetti, maybe a whistle, something? Gee. Anyway, 60 years from now, when I'm sitting on my porch, folks, and yelling at my kids, or sitting on my deathbed, I'm going to remember two things about 1996. One, it was the year I spent composited in front of this computer background, and two, it was the year that Star Trek, one of the strongest science fiction franchises of all time, turned 30. Congratulations to everyone involved. All right, thanks for all your letters this week. You know, one of our newest viewers, Pewter, emailed us. I wish there had been more shows to choose from the poll. Where was Poltergeist the Legacy? You know what? You're right, Pewter. There certainly are a plethora of sci-fi fantasy programs out there, but, you know, we wish we had time to cover them all, but unfortunately, we don't. Thanks for your letter, though. All right, please mail us at... That wraps up our big SF Television year-end review show. Don't forget to join us next Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern for the Best of the War Room special. You don't want to miss it. All right, one more time before we get out of here. Happy holidays, everybody. And Granny, go easy on that eggnog. Until next time, folks, SF Vortex is out.
Could evidence found in the Sahara Desert point to future asteroid collisions with Earth? Can a teacher and her students really predict natural disasters by reading the stars? For the answers to these and many more fascinating questions, check out an all-new Sci-Fi Channel Sightings next.